Right guys, welcome to a classic film review of the 1965 World War II action movie, The Heroes of Telemark, starring Kirk Douglas, Richard Harris and Ulla Jacobsson. The penultimate film from Hollywood legend Anthony Mann. This based on true events film features Norwegian resistance fighters and their daring sabotage mission to destroy a German-controlled heavy water plant in Norway. As such, hoping to disrupt Nazi efforts to develop an atomic bomb. Now, I say based on a true story because this film doesn't let historical accuracy get in the way of telling a classic adventure story. I mean, it casts Kirk Douglas and Richard Harris as Norwegians for a start. And added to that, there are varying accounts of how advanced the Germans were in their attempts to manufacture atomic weapons, but I'd recommend you don't worry too much about that and enjoy one of those great 1960s Boyzone commando comic style action movies, the likes of which include Where Eagles Dare, The Dirty Dozen, etc. Now, it does, however, use some Hollywood star power to shine a light on an area of the war that doesn't really feature much in the pantheon of World War II films. Let's take a look. Now, I've mentioned a couple of famous World War II action films in that intro there, and I'm not here to tell you that 1965's The Heroes of Telemark is in the same league as Eastwood and Burton infiltrating the Schloss Adler, but it's well-meaning and well-made and entertaining. We have Dr. Rolf Pedersen, played by Kirk Douglas, teaming up and butting heads with resistance fighter Stroud, played by Richard Harris, the pair leading a group of brave Norwegian resistance fighters in their plan to blow up a Nazi heavy water plant in German-occupied Norway. Now, the ultimate goal here is to hinder production of weapons of mass destruction. And to spice things up further, Douglas finds that his ex-wife Anna, played by Ulla Jacobsson, and her uncle, played by Sir Michael Redgrave, have also joined the resistance.
Wonderful to see you.
Hello, Anna.
Good God, what are you doing here?
Well, just dropped in for a cup of coffee.
Now, what I do love about The Heroes of Telemark is it is a men-on-a-mission movie by trade, but also feels like a heist movie. You see, an initial attempt by British commandos goes all kinds of wrong, and it's up to the local resistance to step in and perform a Mission Impossible-style infiltration of the plant. And director Anthony Mann, who I'll get to in a minute or two, stages it in near silence, which makes it tense as hell. And a bit more realistic than having a bombastic score playing along. And no spoilers, but this also goes for a third act ferry set piece with Mann letting the action speak louder than the words. Now, what attracted me to this movie initially was the chance to see Kirk Douglas and Richard Harris, two of my favourite actors, and it will surprise approximately no one to hear that the pair didn't get along during filming, and you can almost see that on their faces here.
You understand? Of course you don't. Stupid. Why you?
Douglas spent most of the early 60s playing military parts, and what's oddly fantastic about this part is that he goes from Oslo University scientist to super commando without any real explanation, that I noticed anyway.
I'm not going on such an impossible mission.
Oh, yes, you are, Ralph. You're coming with us. You're the only one who knows exactly where that dynamite must be placed.
Now, I think the movie runs at just over 2 hours and for the most part zips along with the usual handful of set pieces and healthy mixture of double crosses, setbacks, and unfortunately here, romance, with Douglas and Jacobsson's shoehorned romantic subplot being mostly surplus to requirements. Richard Harris, fresh off surviving working with Sam Peckinpah on that same year's Major Dundee, for me is always watchable, and does his Guns of the Navarone, Cassandra Crossing routine really well here, probably staying just sober enough to get a few good takes in. Yeah, so I've got a personal soft spot for this genre of movie, the based on actual events action film that uses the actual events as more of a mere serving suggestion and then just removes the elements that make it dull and slathers on a healthy topping of action and intrigue. We've lost this, I think, which is a bit of a shame. People wouldn't allow it these days. The history police would be straight on the scene immediately. You can't have a 2-minute trailer for Napoleon without half the internet queuing up to cast light on its inaccuracies. Gone are the days, it seems, where we can just enjoy the thrills and spills without worrying about the smallest of details. Now, I've personally got no knowledge of the Norwegian theatre of war in the early 40s, other than that the country was occupied by the Germans. So I'm not really qualified to state what's facts and what's dramatic licence here, but the Heroes of Telemark was based on Skis Against the Atom, the memoirs of a Norwegian resistance soldier who did play a part in the sabotage of the Horsk hydro plant in the Norwegian county of Telemark. The whole thing ripe for the movie treatment, as we get Nazi bases that look like Bond villain secret lairs, our heroes taking on the Germans in a ski chase, and the Heroes of Telemark was actually a British production with scenes that were not shot on location in Norway, filmed in southern areas of the UK. Now, one of the main stars of the film, of course, is the outstanding Norwegian landscape photography, courtesy of cinematographer Robert Krasker, who also shot The Third Man, and who had worked with Mann on films like El Cid and The Fall of the Roman Empire. Now, the pair do some great location work, Anthony Mann, of course, being a legend in the Western and epic genres, and although The Heroes of Telemark doesn't reach the heights of some of his best work, it's still solid work. Mann would sadly die 2 years after this film's release, but left behind an astonishing filmography. Incidentally, it was Kirk Douglas who had Mann fired from directing Spartacus, of course replacing him with a young Stanley Kubrick. Now, their relationship obviously didn't sufficiently sour for them to team up on this project. Now, I've got a pretty ancient DVD copy of this film, but I've since discovered that there's a pretty good version here on YouTube, and I'll link that in the description of this video so that I'll make it easier than ever for you to go and check it out.
2 men with machine guns could hold off a battalion.
I can get inside that factory with 10 men. 10 men! And blow it sky high.
They've got 88mm guns on every hill.
And without destroying an entire village in the process.